JustinFREAKIN is a formidable voice in the culture.
Hey Justin, are you trolling?
We'll see who counts the food.
This is the Troll Patrol, live with JustinFREAKIN.
Welcome to the Troll Patrol live. It's a freaking Tuesday. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. It's a freaking Tuesday. Now, Maynard is not impressed that I didn't know what day it is. You want to get up on stream? I'm trying. He ain't cooperating. Oh well. They were really upset because I waited until today to order groceries. They had maybe like a scoop of food, so they had half a bowl each this morning that they got when they got up. Socks ate all 3 of their food and then threw up. And then all 3 of them were very unhappy. It took like the 2 hours it took to get Instacart to bring me my groceries. They were so pissed. I even went over, I gave them treats. Like, you guys aren't starving. Maynard and Socks could both live off their fat for weeks on end. Mr. Braindead, clinically, good evening. I want to say something. Maybe I owe some people an apology. I've always taken up for Greta Van Fleet. Everyone wants to call them a Led Zeppelin ripoff. And I'm like, how can you rip off a band who ripped off their entire catalog to begin with? But my ass was coming out of the bathroom and I'm like, oh, what's this song? Is this a new Robert Plant song? And I'll walk over and it's Greta Van Fleet. I'm like, well, shit. It's a weird headspace I'm in nowadays. We got news to talk about. We're going to check in with the UAW strike. The UN, Biden and Zelensky spoke at the UN earlier today. We're going to hear from one of the hostages that were freed in the exchange with Iran. A Wall Street Journal reporter appeared in a Russian court. Going to hear from Kevin McCarthy on if he's going to be able to get his caucus in line and avoid a government shutdown. The UAW looking to ramp up their strikes going into the end of the week. Trump apparently going to try to win some brownie points with workers and going to visit workers later this week. For 2 years now, maybe even longer, I have heard right-wingers talk about how Ray Epps is an FBI plant. Ray Epps. Why hasn't he been charged? And my response has been, well, he's a rich guy. That's why he hasn't been charged. He has a good lawyer. Well, he's been charged. Ray Epps charged earlier today. Someone who should probably be charged. Tim Ballard, the guy who the movie Sound of Freedom was based off of? Do I still have that pulled up? We never did watch it. Yes, I still have it. You want to watch Sound of Freedom instead? I don't blame you. Okay. Why did I bring up Sound of Freedom? Because one of the producers was accused of groping one of the young women that they supposedly rescued. Meanwhile, I've got the church that Tim Ballard, that is the man that the movie is based off of, the character that Jim Caviezel played in the movie, based off of Tim Ballard. His church has condemned the man. Apparently, he went on some unhinged rant about how it's all lies, that his church has condemned him. I'm still betting money that he will be found jacking it in San Diego before this is all over. Here's your meme of the day. Don't pretend to be a ska fan if you don't know who this is. The man really knows how to blow the roof off the place. he was so into the performance that he lost his mind. If you ever see this ska band live, they will go out with a bang. Should put a clog up, see how many jokes I could make. Danielle, good evening. For those unaware, this is Bud Dwyer. Bud Dwyer in the early 90s, maybe the late 80s. I don't remember the exact time frame. He gave a press conference. He was accused of embezzling or some shit from the company that he worked for. Said it was all lies, gave a press conference. Blew his fucking brains out on live TV. You may know him best from the Filter song. That's why I say, hey man, nice shot. Cracking me up over here, even if it doesn't crack anybody else up. So, apparently Boebert dumped her new beau over the fact that he's a Democrat. I couldn't confirm that. I just saw people making memes about it, so I don't know if it's true. I wouldn't doubt it, though. I was gonna, like, her husband spoke out, and now she's giving, like, her actual apology. Blah, 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 blah. I was gonna do it, and I don't want to talk about Boebert again tonight. We got too much shit to talk about. I will say I do not have bullshit for the end of the show. It goes from, like, murder stories to puppy bust real fast. So my apologies. I had like 10 minutes left. I'm like, I need to find a good bullshit story or two for the end of this show. Nope, can't do it. Oh, she got dumped. Flash says she got dumped. Also possible. Also, good evening, Flash. Welcome. So glad to see you. I'm still in that weird headspace, so let me plaster on a smile and get through this bullshit one more time. That's what it is. We're talking about bullshit. Also, a story I didn't put on the list, but they have still yet to locate that F-35. They found more debris from it. Now the question is, we did the story last night that it may still be flying. Is it still flying? What? It would have had to have run out of gas by now, right? It's crashed somewhere, surely. Still yet to find the F-35. I tried to think of a good song to do a freaking news with it, but one, I've been so fucking busy. Oh my god. And I really need to get out of here and fucking finish up this video on prostate health I'm working on. Oh, I woke up today. I've been... We're gonna get an update on the UAW strikes. I've been really surprised that the union busting organization that I contract for has been eerily silent through all of this. But I woke up to a shit ton of requests. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. I didn't wake up. I got off the stream last night, and there was a shit ton of requests for me. And I asked them, I was like, do you want any of these waiting on you in the morning? And they're like, no, just do them in the morning. So, I spent all day making fucking union busting propaganda. I shared like, I see their strategy now. They are going to try to demonize Sean Fein. Let me give you a sample of, God, it's so small. I took a screenshot of the caption. Where the UAW president Sean Fein arrived, much fanfare. This is what they wanted. He's giving them what they wanted. Thousands of UAW members, journalists swarmed the union leader, who answered questions before leading the crowd onto a short march. So this is a right-wing AM talk show host trying to demonize Sean Fain. So I had to sit here and listen to goddamn AM talk radio for 3 or 4 hours on end. One of them, this is the first time I've ever done her. That sounded sexual, didn't it? But this is the first time they've ever had a hit on her radio show.
You live in sexual anarchy?
The Andrea K Show out of San Diego. Intelligent and conservative, it says. That's an oxymoron. But originally, when I first saw it, I thought Dynamite in a Dress. I thought that was the name of the show. I was actually a little surprised. Dynamite in a Dress. That's a good name for a show. No, it's the Andrea K Show. You seem like a real moron, too. Let's get into it. The UN meeting today. Biden gave remarks in front of the UN General Assembly. So did President Volodymyr Zelensky from Ukraine. Let's hear from Biden first. Apparently Russia was the big topic yet again.
This gathering, dedicated to peaceful resolution of conflicts, is darkened by the shadow of war. An illegal war of conquest brought without provocation by Russia against its neighbor Ukraine. Like every nation in the world, the United States wants this war to end.
Now, there was provocation. Ukraine is amok with Nazis, apparently, so they had to go try to denazify Ukraine. just like their attack on the moon. I think Russia is trying to denazify the moon.
No nation wants this war to end more than Ukraine.
Is that the ambassador from Russia?
Strongly support Ukraine in its efforts to bring about a diplomatic resolution that delivers just and lasting peace. But Russia alone bears responsibility for this war. Russia alone has the power to end this war immediately. And it's Russia alone that stands in the way of peace, because the Russia's price for peace is Ukraine's capitulation, Ukraine's territory, and Ukraine's children. Russia believes that the world will grow weary and allow it to brutalize Ukraine.
Zelensky looks like he's growing weary.
But I ask you this: if we abandon the core principles of the United States to appease an aggressor, can any...
I believe this would be the UN delegation from Russia, and he's just checking his phone during Biden. What a fucking move that is.
Come on, man.
Not even paying attention to the U.S. president.
Any member state in this body feel confident that they are protected. If you allow Ukraine to be carved up, is the independence of any nation secure? I'd respectfully suggest the answer is no. We have to stand up to this naked aggression today and deter other would-be aggressors tomorrow. That's why the United States, together with our allies and partners around the world, will continue to stand with the brave people of Ukraine as they defend their sovereignty and territorial integrity and their freedom.
Why does Zelensky look so unhappy? Are we not giving you enough money, sir? Maybe he'll explain why he looked so unhappy. During his comments, I couldn't find just a short clip of his comments, so we got to do a CNN piece. I don't know if there's reporting. I think there is reporting as part of this. This is Zelensky's comments in front of the UN today.
Give you an example. The food. Since the start of the full-scale war, the Ukrainian ports in the Black and Azov seas have been blocked by Russia. Until now, our ports on the Danube River remains the target for missiles and drones. And it is a clear Russia's attempt to weaponize the food shortage
This dude's doodling.
market in exchange for recognition for some, if not all, of the captured territories. Russia is launching the food prices as weapons. The impact spans from the Atlantic coast of Africa to the Southeast Asia, and this is the threat scale. And I would like to thank those leaders who supported our Black Sea Grain Initiative and program Grain from Ukraine. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, motherfucker.
United, we made weapons turn back into food again. More than 45 nations saw how important it is to make Ukrainian food products available on the market, from Algeria to Spain to Indonesia and China. And even now,
They are a huge source of grain.
the Black Sea Grain Initiative, we are working to ensure food stability, and I hope that many of you will join us in these efforts. We launched a temporary sea export corridor from our ports, and we are working hard to preserve the land routes for grain exports. And it is alarming to see how some in Europe, some our friends in Europe, play out solidarity in political theater, making thriller from the grain. And they may seem to play their own role, but in fact, they are helping set the stage to a Moscow actor. Second, weaponization of energy. Many times the world has witnessed
They're the #1 exporter of grain. I did not know that.
Kremlin weaponized
I knew they were a huge source of grain.
leaders of other countries when they came to the Red Square.
Apparently #1.
Now this threat is even greater. Russia is weaponizing nuclear energy. Not only it is spreading its unreliable nuclear power plant construction technologies, but it is also turning other countries' power plants into real dirty bombs. Look, please.
I would like to say that Ukraine is one to talk about an unreliable nuclear power plant. But it was ran by the USSR, so
Is what Russia did to our Zaporizhia power plant. Shelled it, occupied it, and now blackmails others with radiation leaks. Is there any sense to reduce nuclear weapons when Russia is weaponizing nuclear power plants? Scary question. The global security architecture offers no response or protection against such a treacherous radiation threat, and there is no accountability for radiation.
Libertad. Yeah, I can barely see him. He's just a floating head.
The sword
Like
example.
John Cena up in here.
Children. Unfortunately, various terrorist groups abduct children to put pressure on their families and societies. But never before the mass kidnapping and deportation would become a part of the government policy. Not until now. We know the names of tens of thousands of children and have evidence on hundreds of thousands of others kidnapped by Russia in the occupied territories of Ukraine and later deported. The international
Damn, the Russian delegation is like right fucking there. What, 30 feet away from him? 40 feet away from him? Shit. I love their response. The bald dude that was sitting there earlier, he was on his phone the entire time. This dude was doodling when Zelensky first started speaking. It looks like he's on his phone now. Their facial expressions say it all.
National Criminal Court issued arrest warrant for Putin for this crime. And we are trying to get children back home. But time goes by. What will
Have you contacted Tim Ballard? If you want to get children back home, I've been told by the right-wingers that that's who you go to rescue children. Though later on in the show, you're going to find out maybe Tim Ballard isn't such a good guy, and maybe the people around him are the actual child molesters.
happen with them? What will happen to them? Those children in Russia are taught to hate Ukraine, and all ties with their families are broken. And this is clearly a genocide. When hatred is weaponized against one nation, it never stops there. Each decade, Russia starts a new war. Parts of Moldova and Georgia remain occupied. Russia turned Syria into ruins. And if not Russia, the chemical weapons would have never been used there in Syria. Russia has almost swallowed Belarus. It is obviously threatening Kazakhstan and other Baltic states. And the goal of the present war against
Back in the USSR.
our land, our people, our lives, our resources into a weapon against you, against the international rules-based order. Many seats in the General Assembly Hall may become empty. Empty if Russia succeeds with its treachery and aggression. Ladies and gentlemen, the aggressor scatters deaths and brings ruins even without nukes, but the outcomes are alike.
Richard, that's debatable. Like Russia was backing Assad in the early parts of the Civil War. I mean, you could make a case that, U.S. and ISIS, yada, yada, yada. But, like, in the early parts of the Syrian war, it almost looked like Assad would be toppled if it hadn't have been for Russian support. So, yeah, you've got a good point. But also, I get where Zelensky is coming from on that one.
We see towns, we see villages in Ukraine wiped out by Russian artillery, leveled to the ground completely. We see
because this goes back to like the Arab Spring when we saw an uprising and it looked like the people of the Middle East were really going to bring democracy themselves, and then the U.S. did what the U.S. does and Russia did what Russia does, and the people remained oppressed.
War of drones. We know the possible effects of spreading the war into the cyberspace. The artificial intelligence could be trained to combat well before it would learn to help the humanity. Thank God, people have not yet learned to use climate as a weapon. Even though humanity is failing on its climate policy objectives, this means that extreme weather will still impact the normal global life, and some evil state will also weaponize its outcomes. And when
Zelensky is bringing up a good point there, because Russia is actually welcoming climate change because it opens up the Arctic for a trade route that Russia controls the area. So
in the streets of New York and other cities of the world went out on climate protests. We all have seen them. And when people in Morocco and Libya and other countries die as a result of natural disasters, and when islands and countries disappear underwater, and when tornadoes and deserts are spreading into new territories, and when all of this is happening, one unnatural disaster in Moscow decided to launch a big war and kill tens of thousands of people. We have to stop it. We must act united to defeat the aggressor and focus all our capabilities and energy on addressing these challenges. As nukes are restrained, likewise the aggressor must be restrained, and all his tools and methods of war. Each war now can become final, but it takes our
Good evening, Ray.
to make sure that aggression will not break in again. And it is not a dialogue between the so-called great powers somewhere behind the closed doors that can guarantee us all the new wars era, but open war of all nations for peace. Last year, I presented the outlines of the Ukrainian peace formula at the UN General Assembly. Later, in Indonesia, I presented the full formula.
I hate these studio shots from CNN.
This formula became the basis to update the existing security architecture. Now we can bring back to life the UN Charter and guarantee the full power for the rules-based world order. And tomorrow, I will present the details at a special meeting of the UN Security Council. The main thing is that it is not only about Ukraine. More than 140 states and international organizations have supported the Ukrainian peace formula fully or in part. The Ukrainian peace formula is becoming global. Its points offer solutions and steps that will stop all forms of weaponization that Russia used against Ukraine and other countries and may be used by other aggressors. Look, for the first time in modern history, we have a real chance to end the aggression on the terms of the nation which was attacked. And this is a real chance for every nation to ensure that aggression against your state, if it happens, God forbid, will end. Not because your land will be divided and you will be forced to submit to military or political pressure, but because your territory and sovereignty will be fully restored.
I thought the same thing, Richard. And also, as he was saying that, I was like, we don't need a rules-based order. We need a new world order. Too sweet! NWO for life. Yeah, apparently Hunter Biden was indicted again on gun charges. I just didn't even put it on the show. Last time he was indicted. Right? It wasn't even indicted. It was he was preparing to be indicted. I guess this was the lead up to this indictment charge. I put it like at the ass end of the show because I just didn't care. If it's not about his dick, I don't care. I don't care at all. While we're on the subject of Russia, let's check in with a Russian court where earlier today, a detained Wall Street Journal reporter, Evan Gershkovich, appeared in a Moscow court earlier today.
Here on your screen is another story we are following, raw and unfiltered. It's one that involves the Moscow City Court as they do consider an appeal against the arrest of WSJ reporter Evan Gershkovich. He was detained on espionage charges back in late March. Earlier, moments ago, actually, a State Department official gave an update after the most recent court hearing. I want to play that for you now, raw and unfiltered.
Good afternoon. We're here today at the Moscow City Court where we understand the court
I apologize for their audio.
rendered a decision on the third appeal on the condition of Evan Gershkovich's conditions of detention. Evan is an American journalist whom Russian authorities have wrongfully detained in Russia for nearly 6 months. The U.S. position remains unwavering. The charges against Evan are baseless. The Russian government locked Evan up for simply doing his job. Journalism is not a crime. Although we could not speak with Evan in the courtroom today,
It is in Russia.
I was able to visit him at the Lefortovo prison last week. Evan is fully aware of the gravity of his situation, yet he remains remarkably strong. True to his profession, Evan is always eager to discuss the latest headlines. He knew, for example, that his parents had delivered a petition to the United Nations last week, a petition that calls on the UN to make clear that he has been arbitrarily detained and to push for his immediate release. He also shared that he is keeping his mind sharp through games of chess by mail with his father. The plight of U.S. citizens wrongfully detained in Russia remains a top priority for me, my team at the embassy, and for the entire U.S. government. It is unacceptable that Evan Gershkovich and Paul Whelan still languish in Russian prisons on charges that are baseless.
I don't know that Whelans are baseless.
Until Evan and Paul are safely at home with their family and friends. Thank you.
That doesn't mean that I believe that Russia should have him detained either. He is a teacher, apparently, who was working with British intelligence. He's a dual citizen. I'm not so sure that, you know, there's not something to his charges, but also Russia, 100%, will wrongfully detain people, hold political hostages. That's absolutely a thing. But I don't know enough about the case one way or the other. But there was some fishy shit going on with Whelan. The Wall Street Journal reporter seems to be just have been doing reporting. So, yes, I hope the U.S. does everything it can to bring, God, what fucking, I fucked his name up again. Gershkovich. Gershkovich. Evan Gershkovich. Hoping for a speedy return of Evan Gershkovich to the United States. It's hard for us to make an assessment from here. When we were listening to the Paul Whelan story, there's some fuckery going on there. And the Brits were telling him one thing and the U.S. telling him not to give an interview and shit. It was weird. So I'm not exactly sure what is going on with that one. This one almost certainly was just a journalist doing his job. The Wall Street Journal sucks, but, you know, they do good news reporting. It's the editorial and all that shit that sucks with the Wall Street Journal. Speaking of hostages being held in other countries, we now have words from a freed American hostage that was held in Iran. Apparently going to detail the torment he suffered.
We're getting in a statement by Siamak Namazi. He's one of the Americans that was released today. And there's some, I just want to read this to you. We're just getting it now, his statement. And he was held since 2015. Among the things he says, I would not be free today if it wasn't for all of you who didn't allow the world to.
He's been held in detention since Obama was president. God damn, poor dude.
Come on, man.
How did we not get him out when we had the Iran deal in place? What the fuck, U.S.?
To forget me. As a hostage, 2,898 days of what should have been the best days of my life were stolen from me and supplanted with torment. He goes on, it's a very lengthy statement, but he says, more importantly, my heartfelt gratitude goes to President Biden and his administration, which had to make some incredibly difficult decisions to rescue us. Thank you, President Biden, for ultimately putting the lives of American citizens above politics. Over the past 44 years, he goes on to say, the Iranian regime has mastered the nasty game of caging innocent Americans and other foreign nationals and commercializing their freedom. By now, Evan Prison is virtually a dystopian United Nations of hostages. We must urgently channel the grievous pain of the victims of this wickedness into the kind of measures that would upend the cost-benefit calculations of Tehran's foul business. For if we keep this path to profit free of risk and toll, this regime will keep treading on it again and again. And
what a fucking statement.
Extraordinarily strong words by this gentleman who suffered, just unbelievable torture. It's the word that we have to use. And I also want to bring in Rick Stengel, former Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy and Public Affairs and an MSNBC political analyst. Rick, I thank you. And, been looking forward to having our conversation as I learn something from you every day. I get a chance to speak with you. But just thinking, Rick, your observations, your thoughts at what we're seeing today.
Well, it's a joyous occasion, Jose, and this administration, the Biden administration, like the Obama administration, like traditional administrations, places a huge premium on getting Americans who are
low-key shot at Trump
held back home. And so what is the price for getting an American back home?
Maybe not so low-key.
The Biden administration is willing to go to the ends of the earth to get these men home. And so, there's criticism and anticipating it. But my understanding from reading these reports is that this was South Korean money that was being paid to the Iranians for Iranian oil that was held in escrow because of the U.S. boycott of Iranian oil. So this wasn't American money at all. But I would say there is no price that's too high to pay for the release of Americans. Again, it's something that traditionally American administrations do to get Americans back home. It's a great occasion.
I hate that stinger at the end. I would rather have Lester Holt. I would much rather have Lester on. Let's keep it with international affairs tonight. Wild situation in Canada where a Sikh was killed. Apparently the Canadian government blaming it on the Indian government. Modi obviously pulling some shit over in Canada. What? Hear from Justin Trudeau earlier today.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says Canada is not trying to provoke India by alleging it's linked to the murder of a Sikh separatist leader.
What's your reaction to that?
But says he wants answers.
India, the government of India, needs to take this matter with the utmost seriousness. We are doing that. We are not looking to provoke or escalate. We are simply laying out the facts as we understand them.
The Sikh leader in question is Hardeep Singh Nijjar. His image still hangs outside the Vancouver area Sikh temple.
We've covered him before, haven't we? Did he run for something in Canada recently? I've heard that name before.
Where he was shot dead in June. He supported the creation of an independent Sikh homeland in northern India called Khalistan. New Delhi has long been unhappy over Sikh separatist activity in Canada, which has the largest population of Sikhs outside Punjab. India branded Nijjar a terrorist in 2020. It says Trudeau's allegations are absurd. The dispute has dealt a fresh blow to the poor diplomatic ties between the two countries. Each has expelled a diplomat over the affair. In Canada, emotions ranged from relief from Nijjar's son.
It was just a matter of time for when the truth would come out. So when we heard that news today, it was a sense of relief that, it's finally coming to the public eyes that, the Indian government is involved.
To outrage from Canada's World Sikh Organization.
To see a Canadian attacked on Canadian soil by a foreign country, I think we can't understate how shocking that news is.
But in India, protesters denounced Trudeau's explosive assertions. A source who spoke to Reuters said concern over the killing is directly linked to Canada's pressing pause on a trade deal with India worth billions. Officials have not shed light on why they think India is connected to the killing, but a separate source says Ottawa worked very closely with the U.S. on it.
Interesting. Would you like to hear more from... Apparently I've been saying it wrong. I've been saying Sikh. Apparently sick. Let's hear more from Hardeep Nijjar's son. You saw a section of his comments.
A prayer to remember. A man whose name was echoed in Ottawa and around the country Monday, Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
He was like a father to me. He was a father to a lot of people.
Allegations now surfacing from the Canadian government, his death potentially linked to agents of the Indian government. In attendance at the Guru Nanak Sikh Gurdwara, his son, speaking publicly for the first time.
When news did come out, I was surprised, but it kind of drove away a little bit of the anxiety that we were kind of feeling that, nothing's being done. Is it just being swept under the rug?
Balraj Singh Nijjar says they'd been making allegations of foreign interference for months. His father's death still fresh in his mind.
He'd even called home like 5 minutes before it happened, get dinner ready, I'm coming home. He's really happy. So it was kind of a big shock.
45-year-old Nijjar, a prominent Sikh leader, shot to death in his truck outside the Surrey Temple in June. No one has been arrested.
A public inquiry into India's interference in this country needs to happen immediately, and we've been saying that since before Hardeep's death.
His supporters claiming the Indian government was trying to silence him because of his push for an independent Sikh state in India called Khalistan. The Indian government claimed Nijjar was a terrorist and last year put a bounty on his head. Balraj Singh Nijjar now with a direct message to the Canadian government. Their push for justice has just begun.
Mr. Trudeau, if you're listening to this, that we place something against India, sanctions. Maybe there's talks with other democratic countries like the US and UK to put more pressure on them.
Meanwhile, the human rights advocacy group Sikhs for Justice says it plans to hold peaceful protests outside Indian consulate offices in Vancouver, Toronto, and Ottawa next Monday. Kamal Karamali, Global News.
I don't put it past Modi. I mean, he has been acting more and more like a fascist with every passing year, and this kind of falls right in line with that. It's sad, too. It's sad. India is one of the countries that I would love to fucking visit. I would like to go and I'd like to go eat some real Indian food. I've said it before. I was hired to do video for a Indian girl's graduation ceremony. Graduation party. And everything was home cooked. It was all like Tupperware containers, and that's the best goddamn food I've ever had in my life. And I've been chasing that white dragon since. Oh my God. Fucking Indian food. Yum. But it's sad that I hear about the murder of somebody and all I can think about is how good their fucking food is. Feel sorry for the family, though. Feel sorry for the family. Feel sorry for me not being able to get that fucking awesome food. We are, about 2 weeks? Less than 2 weeks away from a potential government shutdown here in the U.S. The Republicans do not have their shit together, and it does not look like they're going to get their shit together. Let's hear about the chaos.
We're not going to sleepwalk this country into World War III with Russia. And by the way,
Mr. Speaker, what about disaster funding? How do you see disaster funding resolving itself?
Look, I don't think anybody wins a shutdown. Think for one moment what a shutdown does. It stops paying our troops. How do you have more leverage in that situation? I've watched shutdown after shutdown. Everybody loses. And the only way you're able to achieve that is you pass the appropriation bills that we passed out of committee. That's why we've been working so hard.
Are these facing the risk of being ousted from leadership by the hard right flank of his party?
The deal that allowed Speaker McCarthy to have this role required single...
Oh my God! Do not put your camera that close to Matt Gaetz. Do not shoot down on him either. His forehead looks goddamn gigantic. Whatever is closest to the camera, it's called perspective. Whatever is closest to the camera is going to look bigger than the things that are further from the camera. So don't shoot down on Matt Gaetz from this angle. Or maybe they wanted to make his forehead look like that. Who fucking knows? God damn, he's ugly.
Subject spending bills, and this continuing resolution violates that deal. I'm working to assemble a coalition against this continuing resolution. I think it's bad for the country. It continues the inflationary spending, the waste, the failure.
Latest House funding proposal, compromise between the Freedom Caucus and mainstream conservatives, was almost dead on arrival. DOA.
We're running a $2 trillion deficit. We're not fighting a war. We're not in a pandemic. That hurts everybody. That is crazy. Our members recognize that. So we have members who want to do more in spending cuts. Makes total sense.
Well, technically, we are still in a pandemic. I didn't put it on the list tonight, but there is a new variant that is apparently highly mutated. They have evidence it's in 10 different states, and the states are all across the country. So watch out for that.
Sense to me.
If we do the right thing and have substantial cuts, meaning the 1.471 top line limit, no rescissions.
I didn't know Gaetz was in this, Ray. I agree.
That'll be a good thing. Will it take a couple of weeks of shutdown? Probably so.
It's one of the things that holds us together is we have to end Biden's border policies. I mean, you look, the status quo is incredibly broken on so many levels. We can't possibly deal with all of those without getting to appropriations.
Here's the thing, they talk about Biden's border policies. I lived through 2018. I heard you guys fearmonger about the border when Trump was in office. Do you guys remember the caravan? The caravan is coming. You're never going to stop fearmongering, motherfuckers. Freaking hypocrites. The border. I care more about wages in this country, and that is what the UAW is fighting for. We are on day 5 of the UAW strike of the Big Three, and they are looking to ramp up as we head into the end of the week.
All right, now to the UAW strike, and the union is ramping up the pressure.
Yes, please, Danielle, be careful. The COVID is raging again. However, I will say that the epidemiologist I heard speak on it said, while this is concerning, it's not as bad as we actually thought it was going to be. So that's a good thing. So I'm like, okay, cool. Also, the new booster is going to be available next week, I believe. There's still some mystery around when this fucking booster is actually going to come out.
The new deadline of Friday.
So let's get you caught up on today's big headlines. First, Union President Shawn Fain responding to former president's plans to visit next week. In the meantime,
oh yeah, that was the thing I was going to cover next.
2 White House aides are no longer planning to come this week to help with negotiations, something President Biden said would happen the morning after the strike was called. Let's get to Will Jones live at Ford's Michigan Assembly Plant in Wayne with more on, let's start with where the negotiations stand as far as we know it today. Will.
Well, Devin and Kimberly, still no major breakthroughs, but the conversations are ongoing. Take a look at the activity behind me at the Ford Michigan Assembly Plant. Union members are still demonstrating. If no progress is made, the UAW president...
Okay, apparently the new COVID vaccine is out. It got released 5 days ago. I don't know why. I could have sworn I heard somebody say it still wasn't out earlier today. But apparently it was released 5 days ago. So if you are, especially if you are high risk, if you have comorbidities, if you're around people with comorbidities, highly encourage you to go get the updated COVID booster shot.
Is promising to inflict more pain on the automakers with this strike.
Good.
Workers remain energized, picketing in front of the Ford Michigan Assembly Plant in Wayne, one of 3 plants in the Midwest belonging to Detroit's Big Three automakers that the UAW is striking.
It's a struggle, but we're going to make it. We're going to go all the way.
These Ford retirees coming out to stand with the UAW.
Hell yeah.
I'm just so happy to be here. The union stood by me while we were working here, and I got to stand by my union.
The strike.
Fuck yeah, love that dude. Hell yeah. But it's like I'm reminded of it was like an elderly lady when the abortion thing was going on. It's like, I can't believe I'm still out here having to protest this shit. Honestly, didn't you already win these concessions back years and years ago, sir?
Strike can move into a new phase Friday, which would be 1 week after it started. UAW President Shawn Fain promising to expand the strike if negotiations don't pick up with the automakers.
I believe and have faith in him. He knows what he's doing.
I don't think the threats of new plant closures or even actual plant closures are going to change the car companies' minds on the basic economics they need in order to switch to EVs and survive going forward.
Next week, former President Donald Trump is planning to deliver a speech to union workers in Detroit on the night of the second GOP debate. Fain responding in part about Trump's upcoming visit. Every fiber of our union is being poured into fighting the billionaire class and an economy that enriches people like Donald Trump at the expense of workers. UAW.
Another W from Shawn Fain. He's kicking authority in the balls.
He's kicking authority in the balls.
Love it. Also, I'm kind of into Trump skipping the debate again. We'll do the same thing we did last time. We'll watch the debate, then we'll do Trump's comments.
Members tell me they have been overwhelmed by the amount of support they have received from the community, and they say that is making all the difference as this strike continues. We're live in Wayne. Will Jones, Local 4.
All right, Will.
Will in Wayne. Thank you, sir. Good reporting. Yeah, the other story I was going to do was Trump visiting, so we'll go ahead and skip that since I mentioned it in here. Skipping the GOP debate. I wonder if they're going to bring up all the conspiracy theories surrounding Ray Epps when they get to the Republican debate next week. Ray Epps, a name you guys have probably heard many times over the last couple of years. Every time you bring up January 6th, the right will be like, oh, Ray Epps wasn't charged. He's an FBI agent. Yeah. Ray Epps charged in the January 6th investigation as of today. I don't even know what he's been charged with yet. Supporter of former President Donald Trump, spotted at the January 6th Capitol riot. He was charged with disorderly conduct. After the lack of charges against Epps led personalities like Tucker Carlson to baselessly claim that Epps was a government provocateur. Epps, didn't Tucker's dad work for the CIA? Talk about being a government provocateur. Epps was charged with one count of disorderly conduct or disruptive conduct in a restricted building or grounds, according to a filing from federal prosecutor Michael Gordon. The court document said that Epps did engage in disorderly and disrupted conduct at the Capitol with the intent to, in fact, impede and disrupt the orderly conduct of government business. The penalty for disorderly conduct is restricted grounds. The fucking music is killing me. The penalty for disorderly conduct is in restricted grounds is a fine, imprisonment for not longer than a year, or both. I thought we were going to get comments from somebody in this story, but this Forbes article this Forbes video sucks ass. Get somebody to do a voiceover for you. You know, you can hire me. You can hire me to do voiceovers for you. Forbes. More right-wing conspiracy fucking nonsense. In what is probably going to be the least shocking thing I'm going to say to you tonight. Do you remember the movie The Sound of Freedom? Well, apparently one of the producers, we had the child molester that was a producer, as in he gave money to the cause. This is one of the actual producers of Sound of Freedom, a man that was involved with the organization, was on the ground when they were supposedly rescuing children. Sound of Freedom producer felt the naked breasts of an apparently underage trafficking victim and is on camera talking about how he can't get in trouble for it in Mexico. Files from a joint local and federal criminal investigation released to Vice described video evidence of the incident, which took place in Mexico on an Operation Underground Railroad mission. So this is the piece of shit right here, and exactly what I would expect him to look like. Paul Hutchinson, an executive producer of Sound of Freedom. The film focused on the heavily fictionalized exploits of anti-trafficking activist Tim Ballard, more on Ballard here in a second, touched the naked breasts of an apparently underage trafficking victim during a 2016 undercover operation in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. Footage of the incident and its aftermath was captured by videographers working with Operation Underground Railroad, or R, the private I don't want to be a pirate. The private anti-trafficking group Ballard founded. An investigator with the Davis County Attorney's Office obtained the footage and wrote detailed descriptions of it as part of a criminal investigation into Ballard and R carried out by the FBI. The investigation was closed this year without any charges being brought. The descriptions were included among documents obtained by Vice News through a public records request and made clear that the trafficking victim appeared to be and was believed to be at the time, or believed by Hutchinson and our representatives at the time, to be 16 years old. They also assert that R believed the footage had been destroyed. A description of one of the videos written by an investigator shows Hutchinson expressing concerns over whether he could be prosecuted by Mexican authorities over the incident. He was speaking to Matt Osborne, an R representative, who dismissed his worries while making clear he didn't think the video should be shown to the U.S. government. Osborne is currently the president and chief operating officer of R, and as he has been since Ballard resigned from the organization earlier this year following an internal investigation into allegations of sexual misconduct. Dustin, good evening. Hutchinson, 52, is an anti-trafficking activist, philanthropist, full-on rapist probably, and entrepreneur with lines in, among other things, ballistic protection technology and private vaults, who's long been associated with the Utah anti-trafficking movement. According to his LinkedIn, he was the first investor in Sound of Freedom. Currently affiliated with the Child Liberation Foundation, he was a key fundraiser and operative for R before splitting with Ballard several years ago over, as he put it in an email device, similar reasons as those you are bringing to light in your stories. Provided with a detailed description of what was in the investigative files, he did not deny that the video showed him doing what the investigators' description said they did, or dispute that he had felt the trafficking victim's naked breasts. He did dispute that she was a minor. I didn't grope her. I did grope her, but she wasn't underage. Fucking shit. He asserted that he had sworn an affidavit from Mexican. He had a sworn affidavit from Mexican federal police saying that she was over 18. He did not respond to multiple requests sent over a period of weeks to provide a copy of this document. As if it would make it any better. A detailed description of another video shows Hutchinson potentially creating demand for trafficking while posing as a wealthy sex tourist. This was an allegation that we brought up when the film came out. According to an investigator's description, he asked a trafficker who was showing him pictures of sex workers for younger girls, or, as he and the trafficker both described them, mas fresca. The trafficker, according to the investigator's description of the video, tells women who are working with him to find girls as young as 14 to provide to Hutchinson. Creating demand for it. Jesus. There is no suggestion in the files that Hutchinson's behavior was aimed at anything but identifying and exposing traffickers. The federal agents with extensive experience working undercover overseas told Vice News that Hutchinson's methods ran contrary to best practice. For years, experts in the anti-trafficking field have raised concerns about R's methods potentially creating demand for trafficking victims due to scenarios precisely like this one. Rather than finding minors who were already being trafficked, requesting younger victims while undercover could cause traffickers to try and find people to fill that request. In other words, such a request would not rescue trafficking victims, it could potentially create them. Tim Ballard, who has said he is likely to run for Senate, likely to run for the Senate seat Mitt Romney is vacating. He did not respond to a request for a comment from Vice. However, I do have comments from Ballard. Apparently, his church in Utah. Good luck winning election to the Senate in Utah when your church, when the Mormon church comes out against you. I assume it's Mormon. When any church comes out against you. We know that churches love to cover up sex crimes. We've got extensive fucking records of them doing exactly that. So when you get a church to condemn you, you know you're a piece of shit. Tim Ballard responding to condemnation from his own church.
Can you imagine? By the way, if anybody wants to share this with any news outlet, do it. Share it.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, here we are, sir.
News at 9. I'm Amy Nay. And we begin tonight with news of Tim Ballard. He's the founder of Operation Underground Railroad, now breaking his silence after being condemned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We're here downtown, just across from the church office buildings. Ballard says he believes a statement issued by the church.
It was kind of wrong of me to stereotype that somebody from Utah was going to a Mormon church, but I was right.
Didn't actually come from the church, calling his behavior morally unacceptable. Fox 13 News investigative reporter Adam Herbetz is in studio with more on tonight's update.
Well, Amy, this video was sent to us by someone touring with Tim Ballard this weekend in Boston. Watch and listen for yourself as he gives a speech about his relationship with a powerful LDS leader who the church says felt betrayed by Ballard's actions.
This is breaking up my family like you can't believe.
At times, he was passionate, shouting at the camera. At times, he lowered his voice and teared up.
My wife.
Tim Ballard, the founder
of the
Underground Railroad, publicly defending himself for the first time from his own church.
I'm the bad guy in the story.
Yes.
I'm the bad guy.
On Friday, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints released a statement to Fox 13 and other media, calling Tim Ballard's behavior morally unacceptable. The statement was in response to documents obtained by Vice News, detailing a criminal investigation into Tim Ballard and his nonprofit. The church says Tim Ballard betrayed his friendship with M. Russell Ballard, acting president of the Quorum of the 12.
I have never used Elder Ballard's name, ever. I've never traded on his name to ask for anything. I've never had any business dealing with him. He's like a grandfather to me.
He says President Ballard went on this same tour with him in Boston. They share the same last name, but they're not related.
I don't believe the church did this. I truly don't. Can you imagine that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints would publicly condemn one of its members?
Apparently the answer is yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You had to be a gigantic piece of shit.
From his official church email address. According to his LinkedIn profile, Anderson has been the director of media relations for the church for nearly 15 years.
I pray to God the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints wasn't part of this. I don't know yet. I don't know.
Ballard also questions the timing. Ever since Mitt Romney announced he would be giving up his seat on the U.S. Senate, rumors have been circulating about a Ballard run for Congress.
It was leaked to the press that I was going to run for U.S. Senate.
The rumors started with a tweet from Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes saying he would be endorsing a patriot warrior for the seat. It's no secret, the two are close friends and have promoted OUR together.
My stake president knew nothing about it. My bishop knew nothing about it. If the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints wants to condemn me publicly before the world, in the moment that I'm trending, and please don't take this the wrong way, but The Sound of Freedom is the #1 movie in Latin America. It's the #1 movie.
Fuck your stupid movie.
If you'd like to see the full 10-minute, 10-second video of Tim Ballard addressing the church's condemnation, it is on the front page of our website, fox13now.com. Reporting in studio, Adam Herbetz, Fox 13 News, Utah.
I stand by my comments. This is going to end with this dude jacking it in San Diego. Because that was damn close to it, what we just watched. He almost had his dick in his hand right there. Jacking it, jaggedy smack. Gonna hit the content warning before we move into the next set of stories. If you don't like the crime, murder, mayhem stories, I'll see you tomorrow night, because that's really all I got left for you guys. I tried to find some bullshit for the end and I couldn't really do it. Unless you want to show back up for Puppy Bus. I got Puppy Bus. Everybody deserves Puppy Bus after the shit I'm getting ready to throw on you now. Holy fuck. One of these stories. All of them are appalling. I mean, I guess the story about the women throwing babies outside of the club, I guess that one's kind of bullshit, but it's also child endangerment, so I don't know. Tones, good evening. We're going to go to the Bronx, where apparently a child died of an overdose after getting a hold of some fentanyl. I support arming babies. I don't know about throwing them. Their heads aren't fully formed yet. You might give them brain damage, and we have enough fucking people walking around in this country with brain damage right now.
Do you think we're stupid? You think we're fools?
I kind of want to see Tim Ballard run for Senate, though. It'll be an interesting race. God damn. We're going to go to the Bronx, where a daycare owner and one other person have been arrested in connection to a child's death that involved fentanyl.
And a Bronx daycare owner and a man renting a room from her have now been hit with federal charges.
This after a 1-year-old died and 3 other children became sickened from suspected fentanyl exposure.
Fox 5's Lisa Evers joins us live outside federal court in Lower Manhattan, where these new charges were just announced. Lisa?
Well, Natasha and Steve, the daycare center owner and her co-conspirator tenant, are expected to be arraigned here on these new federal charges sometime later today. The feds have now taken over this case, which has broken the hearts of people everywhere, and we're getting shocking new details.
Is co-conspirator the right word? I hate to be pedantic about this, but like co-defendant, they'll be the co-defendant in the case. But like you have to conspire to commit a crime. Like, as I understand the story, maybe there's, like, they didn't conspire to give the kids fentanyl. As far as I know, I don't know. Maybe. Let's listen more.
Details about what happened in the crucial moments after those babies were poisoned with fentanyl. 36-year-old Gray Mendez was taken away in handcuffs by the NYPD, and her tenant, 41-year-old Carlisto Acevedo Brito, was also arrested on murder and other charges in connection with the fatal fentanyl overdose of 1-year-old Nicholas Dominici and the poisoning of 3 other children at a Bronx daycare center on Friday. Now it's a federal case, with both Mendez and Brito facing maximum penalty charges. Prosecutors say Mendez allegedly called a third alleged co-conspirator, believed to be her husband, before calling 911 on Friday for the poisoned children. He ran out of the daycare with two...
Okay, fair enough. Danielle conspired to cover it up. There we go. Okay. So she made a phone call to someone else before calling police. Conspired to cover it up. Fair enough. Conspirator, co-conspirator. But you can't have a conspiracy to commit involuntary manslaughter. Co-conspirator to cover it up. That makes far more sense.
Kilos, says Southern District U.S. Attorney Damian Williams.
We allege that the defendants poisoned 4 babies and killed one of them because they were running a drug operation from a daycare center.
Armed with a search warrant, NYPD detectives and DEA agents made a startling discovery.
There we discovered a kilogram of fentanyl in an area that was used to give the children naps. It was laid underneath a mat where the children had been...
Oh, it'll knock them out all right.
DEA agents were among the first responders to the Divino Niño Daycare Center, which was actually inside Mendez's apartment. Authorities say they also found 3 kilo presses in the place.
Fentanyl is a killer. Fentanyl crept into our illicit drug supply like a cancer, slowly and deceptively, and is now in everything and everywhere, killing victims instantly and indiscriminately.
Fentanyl is extremely dangerous, and when inhaled or touched and put into the mouth, can cause someone to stop breathing. It's even more...
No. God damn, I hate this misinformation. You can't just touch fentanyl and die. Now, a child can probably touch it and then puts their hands in their mouth. Yeah, exactly. I hate that. It's such misinformation. You can't touch fentanyl and die. That runs contrary to every medical expert. But now, like, children, you don't want around it because, like, no. Because a child's going to put its hands in its mouth within just a few seconds. Several cops would tell you they looked at it and died.
Which makes you, sleepier, and, at higher doses can lose unconsciousness. But it also can affect your respiratory system.
Now, the U.S. Attorney tells us that if convicted on these latest charges, the 2 co-defendants could be looking at a minimum of 20 years behind bars in a federal prison or a maximum of life behind bars. As for that third...
Good. They probably should get that.
The woman's husband, the daycare owner's husband, we're told by police sources that right now a joint NYPD U.S. Marshals task force, fugitive task force, is looking for him. We're live in Lower Manhattan outside...
He on the run!
Fox 5 News. Steve and Natasha, back to you.
What is the NYC... Oh, New York Corrections Department. I was like, it looked like NYPD, but it said NYCD. New York Corrections Department. That makes sense. Let's go to... I don't even know where this happened. This is one of those stories that it's been it's Indiana. It's been one of those national headline kind of cases that I haven't touched, but now the defense is claiming something that made me like, all right, that belongs on the Troll Patrol now. Is it Delphi or Delphi? The Delphi double murder cases in, I guess, Delphi, Indiana? A man by the name of Richard Allen is the defendant in the case. He's now claiming that 2 Indiana teens were actually murdered by a pagan religious cult. Pagan, like Delphi. Thank you, clinically. When I heard Indiana, DJ Dub, good evening. When I heard Indiana, I assumed it was Delphi. Delphu? It being Indiana. I figured it was Delphi, but probably Delphi. Maybe ABC News will tell us.
And ABC News legal contributor and managing partner at the Cochrane firm, Shauna Lloyd, joins me now for more on this. Shauna, what a bizarre case. What do you make of this evidence now that the defense says points to this white nationalist pagan group?
Wait, white nationalist pagan group? I'm gonna call bullshit and say that doesn't exist. There's a white nationalist pagan group? What the? Or are we trying to describe, like, pagan can be used broadly by people that don't know what they're talking about? Are we talking about some white nationalist group that believes in some kind of Norse mythology or some shit? What the fuck? A pagan white nationalist group actually murdered these two teens. Not this dude, Richard Allen, who's been accused, who looks guilty as shit.
Theory that they have, and it will be able to be presented to the jury if these were indeed factual findings of the police investigation. It could tamper and make a determination for the jury that there was another possibility, so it works for the defense.
Now, the defense claims the prosecution...
Yeah, Dustin, but if you're into, like, Norse mythology, you're not a pagan then, are you? Like, pagans are like my friends up the holler that think they do witchcraft. Those are pagans. Is this more as like a Christian would, like, call anything that's not Christian? That's a pagan ritual.
Sat on this evidence for months. If that's true, why wouldn't the prosecution disclose this evidence?
If the prosecution felt like it wasn't relevant to this particular trial, they may not have disclosed it. However, anything that speaks to the defendant, his involvement, or any other things that are considered Brady material have to be turned over by the prosecution if it is in their possession.
So prosecutors say an unspent bullet found near the bodies links Richard Allen to the crime. So given that, is this new motion enough to get this case thrown out?
Okay, so the actual definition of pagan is a person holding religious beliefs other than those of the main or recognized religion. I thought pagan was a specific sect of, witches and shit. Especially in a historical context, holding or constituting religious beliefs other than those of the main or recognized religions, a pagan god. Okay, fair enough.
Motion is significant because if they can have the search warrant deemed invalid, all of the evidence that was gained from the search warrant, including the gun that they tested, all of that evidence is going to be not admitted at trial. So that's a very significant move if the defense gets this granted.
So they want this Franks hearing to determine if an officer lied to obtain that search warrant.
Now that I believe.
What do they have to prove in order to get that?
Both things can be true. The officer probably lied to obtain a warrant, but, like, the dude's also probably guilty.
Warrant thrown out. And does the prosecution still have a case if it is?
In order to get these the search warrant suppressed or thrown out, they're going to have to show that either, as they're alleging, the officer got the search warrant under false information, he purposely made a misrepresentation.
Exactly, Tones.
Or there was no factual basis by which the judge could have granted the search warrant. Because let's remember, we are supposed to be free from undue search and seizure. So search warrants have to be based on independent facts. They have to state what it is you're looking for, why you're looking for it. If any of that information is not accurately given to the judge and the search warrant is given, it can be thrown out. Now, if all of that evidence is thrown out, that weakens the prosecution's case because that is where they believe they've found the actual weapon that committed the murder. So that's a significant blow to the prosecution's case.
And who then decides if this case moves forward or not? Can they still go and bring this to a jury, or could the judge decide we don't have a case here and dismiss it?
The likelihood is that it is still going to go to the jury. Now, let's remember the prosecution can always attempt to proffer some sort of a plea deal. They can look to do other things if they feel like their case is so weakened that it's not going to survive a jury verdict.
All right, ABC News legal contributor Shauna Lloyd. Thanks, Shauna.
Shut up, George. They showed a picture of the dude. he looks completely different now. What the fuck? He is withered away in jail, apparently. This is a more current picture than the mugshot that they showed. I hate to judge a book by the cover, but I mean, he looks guilty. But I mean, also, we covered this last night as one of the reasons why you want to eliminate cash bail, because putting somebody in shackles and putting them in a jail suit and taking them in front of a judge makes them look guilty. Jail does take a toll on you. So perhaps me as a advocate of criminal justice reform, perhaps I'm wrong to say that. Speaking of strange religious cults, let's check back in with a story that we covered last week, where a woman was tortured in a house in Atlanta. Apparently thought she was coming to be a part of some religious cult or some shit. Content warning.
First tonight at 11, new details as police add more charges against the suspects accused of beating, starving, and killing a woman in the basement of a Gwinnett County home. The suspects claim they are a religious group, but now police are calling their group a criminal street gang, charging them with gang activity on top of felony murder.
And all new tonight, we are hearing from a cult expert who says all of this matches a pattern. Here's 11 Alive's John Sherrick.
Did the defense up in Indiana get the idea, like, oh, just say a cult did it?
So far, the 6 murder suspects have not had a chance to tell their story publicly. But from what police have said so far, they call themselves Soldiers of Christ.
Sadly, John, I hear about this constantly.
Rick Allen Ross follows cults worldwide. He's the author of Cults Inside Out.
And there are often these kind of tragic circumstances.
Tragic. According to police, earlier this summer, a woman left her home in South Korea, ending up at this home in Gwinnett County, halfway around the world. She thought she was joining a religious organization. Police say the 5 adults in their 20s and one 15-year-old so-called Soldiers of Christ imprisoned her, beat her, withheld food from her, and she died. When police discovered her body this week in the trunk of a car, she weighed 70 pounds. Ross says that's all how cults often work.
No one intentionally joins a destructive cult. So there is this element of deception, a kind of bait and switch con, and then only when they become involved more deeply in the group is it revealed to them in increments what they're really getting involved with.
Ross seeing this again and again.
There have been many deaths tied to destructive cults, starvation deaths, deaths due to extreme living conditions, beatings, medical neglect.
Police saying that for now they believe they've arrested everyone involved in the woman's mistreatment and death. In Atlanta, John Sherrick, 11 Alive News.
But why? Was it some sort of ritual? What the fuck? Why are you tying her up? Also, it was a really nice house. How does a cult, all the members of the 20, have a nice house in Georgia, and I'm still a renter? What the fuck? I say it all the time that, nothing surprises me on this show, but then every night I'm fucking shocked at the shit I hear. God damn. Shocked it doesn't even begin to cover what's going on in keeping it in Georgia. Venus, good evening. The family of a Georgia teen. Joey, good evening. How do cults where do they get the money from? How can I start a cult? Can I start like a cult where we do like good shit? Please, let's start a cult where we have consensual orgies and don't tie anybody up and don't murder anybody. Can we do that? Is that even a cult if you do? The cheeser. You gotta do bad shit to get people interested. It sounds like a boring cult. Oh my, consensual orgies are a boring cult. Purgatorus, good evening. The family of a Georgia teen who was found dead wrapped in a gym mat has now filed documents in federal court. A teen found dead wrapped in a gym mat.
At 6, it's been more than 10 years since this teenager, Kendrick Johnson, was found dead rolled up inside a wrestling mat in the gym of a South Georgia high school.
10 years ago?
National headlines. A lot of people were concerned. And this morning, his parents are here in Atlanta. So Atlanta News First reporter Bridget Spencer is live for us this morning outside the federal courthouse. So Bridget, what's going on?
Good morning, guys. This is going to be basically a direct response to Sheriff Ashley Polk's investigation that he performed last year. That was back in early 2022. Now, if you can recall, a decade ago, Kendrick Johnson, he was 17 years old when his body was found in a rolled-up wrestling mat in the gym at Lowndes High School. Now, the death was ruled an accident even after the current sheriff, Ashley Polk, took a second look at the case in 2022. Now, Kendrick Johnson's parents, they are saying they are really not convinced that this was an accident.
An accident? An accident? Do you think we're stupid? Do you think we're fools?
Do you think we're stupid? You think we're fools?
Yeah, sorry, Ray, which I mean, it's not like we don't do fucked up news every night. I've still got more fucked up shit coming. The next two stories are extremely fucked up, but at least nobody died. It's like the woman saying her gun was secured. No, it fucking wasn't. An accident? No, it fucking wasn't.
In the gym at Lowndes High School. Now, the death was ruled an accident even after the current sheriff, Ashley Polk, took a second look at the case in 2022. Now, Kendrick Johnson's parents, they are saying they are really not convinced that this was an accident due to some inconsistencies in the way their son's body was handled. They say investigators need to take a look at evidence from the third autopsy. Today, they're going to be filing a response to the sheriff's 2022 investigation right here in federal court in Atlanta.
Read the third autopsy report, people. Don't take my word for it. Read the third autopsy report. It doesn't.
His shirt says Kendrick Johnson didn't roll himself up. Yes! Oh my God! Read the third autopsy report. How did the other two autopsies not like? I don't have to conduct an autopsy to know. He did not. The family has filed a federal lawsuit. That's the update to the story, Snicks. How? No! You can't just fall in a rolled up mat.
State what he said.
The documents I've read and the things, the investigation I've seen, I feel 100% sure there was no foul play. It's
Fuck you.
In my opinion.
Well, here we are a decade later. Kendrick Johnson's family still saying they really believe that their son was murdered based on the evidence that they have read, and they even have vowed to take this fight to the Supreme Court if need be. We're live in downtown Atlanta. Bridget Spencer, Atlanta News First.
An accident. $1 billion lawsuit, and I hope they receive some modicum of justice. I'm stunned. Yeah, the cop, the sheriff, looks sus. Nope.
I feel 100% sure that was.
I feel 100% sure that you are a piece of shit. Ashley Polk. Fuck you. We're now going to go to a high school football game. I think it's a high school football game. In Birmingham, Alabama, where the cops decided to tase the band director. Whoa. Did they play a song you didn't like? What the fuck? The band is playing. I got my troops. They gun sweep their okay. They're gonna sweep their. I don't know what's bleeped out. They're gonna sweep their shit out, okay? He's conducting the band right now. You will go to jail for what? Conducting a band at a football game? That's what... Why? Why are he is the band director? They're at a school. It played too long. This is 21:57. That's like 9:57. 9:57. Well, the band is fucking awesome. Listen to them. It's very unsafe to turn the school lights off. And the kids are so into it. Yeah, it is completely unsafe for everybody there on the field. Wait, they're a cult high school? What? I'm fixing to tase you. Why? It's not safe to turn the lights off when the police are present. Nope. He hit the officer. Bullshit. Being disrespectful. That's why he's wanting to take him to jail. Fuck you, pig. Fuck you. Oh my God. You're not supposed to deploy a taser for that long. Jesus fucking Christ. Let's get some story on this. Let's get the backstory on everything that happened. What the fuck? Minor band director Johnny Mims tased by Birmingham police during the 5th quarter. What we know today. This was published by AL.com, who does fantastic reporting. This is from earlier today. Johnny Mims, the minor high school's band director since 2018, was arrested on Thursday night by Birmingham police after officers ordered the band to leave mid-song following a game at Jackson Olin High School. The incident has divided those who say police should have handled the situation in a different manner and those who say Mims should have complied with officers' request to leave. They're a band playing at a football game. Come the fuck on. Mims took over as Miners band director after serving as director of orchestra and bands at Mainland High School in Daytona Beach and director of bands in New Smyrna Beach High School in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. A native of Homestead, Florida, Mims is a graduate of Florida State University. Growing up in an inner city. I don't want the background. I want the... Apparently in 2012, Mims resigned from New Smyrna Beach High School after a probe concluded Mims had exhibited anger control issues in front of students by hitting a plexiglass podium so hard it broke and slamming a chair down on the floor. The probe came after a band parent accused him of angry outbursts and verbal abuse. Get to the actual incident. Video released by police states that the interaction between Mims and the officer took place 18 minutes after the end of the game. In some HBCUs and predominantly black high schools, once the football game ends, bands stay on to play for families and supporters. Johnny Mims, a respected member of the community, was doing his job and directing his band during their performance the 5th quarter. Police contend Mims didn't comply with their orders for his band to stop playing so that they could clear the stadium following the end of the game. Police say officers spoke with both schools' band directors to end the performance so students and attendees would leave the stadium. Officers were able to get Jackson Olin's band to stop performing. Officers presented the case to the City of Birmingham Magistrate's Office and obtained warrants for disorderly conduct, harassment, and resisting arrest. As of Tuesday morning, Mims had not commented publicly. Given called the incident an egregious violation of civil rights and said Mims was subjected to excessive force and wrongful arrest. Yeah. Given, who is this Given guy? I did not state who he was. I must have skipped over that part. Where do they even cite this dude? Okay, this is his attorney, and the attorney is actually State Representative Gwendolyn Given. Without any justifiable cause, a Birmingham police officer approached the band director, escalating the situation to an unimaginable extent, Given said. The officer deployed a taser against the band director, causing physical harm and inflicting emotional distress, all while in front of his students. As I say it many times on this show, listen, what the cops did is a far more egregious crime than what this motherfucker was accused of. This incident is an alarming abuse of power and a clear violation of our client's civil rights. It is unacceptable for law enforcement to engage in home rule in the field of play or with regard to band activities unless there is a significant threat to the safety of the general public. Yeah. We will not rest until justice is served and those responsible are held accountable. And you even heard him tell, we've got one more song. The 7-minute body cam video shows an officer approaching a minor staff member and an officer saying it's time to go. The band was still in the stands playing. They then approached Mims, who said repeatedly, get out of my face. A male officer said, I got my troops coming and they're going to sweep their asses out. Asses was they beeped asses? Mims continued to direct the band. A female sergeant said, load them up before I contact the superintendent. Mims said they would leave when they finished their final song. School officials on Monday said Mims is on administrative leave with pay, which is standard protocol, while they continue to investigate and gather facts. Birmingham Police Chief Scott Thurmond met with Mayor Randall Woodfin, City of Birmingham leadership, BPD leadership, Birmingham City Schools Director Dr. Mark Sullivan and his leadership team, as well as Dr. Gonsolin and his leadership team. The Birmingham Police Internal Affairs Division is investigating, as it does with all incidents. Gibbons said the legal team is working with the Alabama Education Association to investigate the incident, gather evidence, and pursue legal action against the Birmingham Police Department. I fucking encourage that. The Alabama Education Association and Gibbon will hold a press conference on Wednesday to further address the incident. As you listen to police video, you hear the officer saying, I'm going to call the superintendent and you're going to have to pay my overtime. Fuck off. What that officer should have been doing is never spoken to my client and already made a call to the superintendent to reach out to the principal or whoever the administrator on duty or in charge was to address the issues going on. That's what should have happened. Yes. Appalling. But it's Alabama, so what the fuck do you expect? Stupid ass state. Glad I don't live there anymore. I don't know where this happened yet. Hopefully they mentioned it in the story. I assume they will in the story. But just know the women have had their asses censored. Apparently they were showing their asses in more ways than one with this story.
You live in sexual anarchy?
Oh, goddamn. 2 women have been accused of throwing a baby like a toy outside of a bar.
It's a crazy scene outside a bar. The time, 1 a.m. The place, Daytona Beach.
Oh, Daytona Beach. That explains it.
Watch as a woman wearing a thong bikini is seen on surveillance tape holding a baby and taking a swing at a woman recording.
I do want to say, before you put on a thong bikini, I do have some advice for you.
Life is too short to walk this earth for a crusty asshole. Wash your ass.
A cell phone. Her friend, also in a skimpy bikini, steps in front and attempts to block the crowd. So what triggered the argument? Police say the witness was trying to videotape a truly disturbing incident in which the 2 women dressed in thong bikinis were seen tossing a baby like a football.
She was tossing the baby in the air, and it was aggressive, and it was pretty scary. What can you do? You can't physically take the baby. You might harm it even more.
One woman was reportedly seen holding the baby upside down by the ankle. It happened outside the Coyote Ugly bar. One woman even offered to hold on to the baby.
I'll take it. I want you to mind your business.
When cops got there, she explains what is going on.
You're tossing this baby infant child around like
And flipping it upside
down.
Store owner Sean Knapp says his security cameras next door captured the action.
It almost looks like the poor child's head hits the rail. And just watching it tears your heart apart.
Police said the little boy may have suffered a broken arm. Brianna LaFoe, 19, and Sierra Newell, 20, have been charged with child abuse and battery.
Both women have
I have the same position on kids as I do guns. Most people aren't responsible enough to have them. What the fuck?
And battery.
Both women have now been released from custody.
The child's in Child Protective Services, right? CPS. It's Florida. Who fucking knows? Drunken baby toss. That's a new one to me. That's a new drinking game. Drunken baby toss. Dogs, you say, Libertad. Did I tell you good evening? I don't know if I did. You might have snuck in without getting a salutation. Dogs, you say. Dogs. I think that's exactly how we should end this show. With puppies. Here's another installation. Chainsaw got here just in time. Here is another installment of Puppy Bus.
Every morning in Alaska, this school bus makes its rounds picking up passengers, but they're not kids going to school.
Hey, Amaru.
Going on adventures.
Good morning, Amaru.
Hey, buddy.
The dogs jump into their assigned seats and are attached to leashes instead of seat belts.
Load up.
The doggy bus is operated by Mo Mountain Mutts, a dog walking business created by Mo Thompson and her husband Lee.
I hope everybody enjoyed their trip today, and remember, your guide's salary depends greatly upon the quality of their service and the generosity of your gratuity.
They load up their bus and take different groups of dogs on off-leash walks multiple times a day. The pups can expect the same treatment as airline passengers.
Thank you for riding with my mountain mutts. Would you guys like a complimentary chicken liver with your bus ride?
Oh, yes, they would.
Says no to complimentary treats. They're even assigned very important responsibilities.
Please stay in your seats till we get to your house. Paws to yourself. Tails out of the aisles. Murray, you're sitting in the emergency exit. Are you willing and capable of offloading the pups in a remote chance of an emergency? Thank you.
So in the back of my bus, there's 4 seats that are all by themselves. So they're literally in their own little section. We call it the licky puppy corner. So dogs that want to like relentlessly lick each other all sit together. And then the mentors and the really calm dogs sit together. Come on, get on the bus. Who's honking the horn? Bama.
The dog
Bama honking the horn.
Personality, age, and manners.
Nina and Murray sit together. They sit behind me because they're very polite riders. They're not noisy. Nobody squeaks in my ear or slaps me in the back of the head with their big paws like these guys definitely would. Hey, you're gonna have to get in your seats.
While some dogs don't always follow the rules.
Excuse me, ma'am, your tail is in the aisle. You're gonna have to adjust your butt.
Most of them.
Adjust your butt.
Break!
Oh, they're so well behaved. They're so beautiful.
Can be dangerous. So before adding a new dog to her pack, Mo sets up a meet and greet to test the dog's temperament and make sure it is reliable and trained for recall.
Jake Maru! Good dogs.
Babies.
Never miss an opportunity to make the doggies feel special.
Here we got the birthday boy. His name is Gentleman Jake. Now we're aboard the puppy bus. It's time for puppy cake.
Yay! Puppy cake!
And Jake says thank you for celebrating me.
Woo. Go ahead, light one up, tip one back. It's alright to have a little fun before you hit the sack. I'm JustinFREAKIN.
Mo and Lee say.
We'll see you tomorrow night on the Troll Patrol. Live.